You're listening to Lore Friendly with Chris Takahashi and Alice Bell. On today's episode, we're going to go over a potential Bethesda-made Game of Thrones game, mods, Defenders Episode 3, and the Netflix Death Note movie. But first off, some lore-friendly news. You are going on a trip, aren't you, Alice?
I'm moving.
You're moving.
I'm moving house. I'm moving back to Nottingham.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
moving away from home again. Thank fuck.
You're on a graduate program now, or? I don't know.
I'm going to do my masters.
Right.
Because I'm a big girl. I'm a postgraduate student now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I just said.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, we don't have internet for 10 days.
Okay.
So I'm just bulk downloading things to watch whilst I unpack and make the
to
house
bunker
nice and
down
shit.
and-
Yeah.
Keep your attention for 10 days.
I mean, last time I moved house and we didn't have internet was a couple of years ago. And we were without internet for 7 days then. And I marathoned all of Doctor Who. Because I had them on DVD and then I had them saved on my computer. So...
And right now you're looking for Critical Role
yeah.
stuff.
It's perfect to, like, unpack to and stuff like that, because, like, you don't have to... Like, unpacking's kind of a mindless thing, but whereas you need to concentrate when you're watching Critical Role, so you can concentrate on that whilst you're just unpacking, and it's great. Although, to be fair, I've just been sat down and listening to it for the past couple of days, because most of my clothes and stuff are all packed away. It's just... I literally have one set of clothes that I'm wearing for the next couple of days because everything's washed and clean and packed. So I'm going to smell like a homeless person. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's one of those shows I have not gotten into yet, but everyone in my circle of Twitter followers and friends
Yeah.
always retweets Critical Role stuff, so I know of it.
Is it
And
Jessica Osborne? I know that she does a lot of Critical Roles type retweets and shit.
and fan art and stuff
Yeah.
like that, so...
Like, it's
Yeah.
really good, but it's just such a time commitment.
Mm.
So if you, like, you can't do anything else whilst you're listening to it, really.
Yeah, it's not something someone who's working on her doctorate should be listening.
Well,
should be studying.
I'm not doing any studying for at least 23 days.
In that case, that's fine.
So I'm sure that I can watch another 80 episodes.
No sleep, just watching Critical Role.
That's pretty much it. Like, I came in when I was drunk last night and I just watched another episode
Just
of
blast that
Critical
shit. You
Role.
just turn up the speakers.
Fuck yeah,
bump
getting
that
down
shit,
for the
yeah.
It was like in the middle of this really cool story arc as well. So I was just sat there with my last bottle of beer. Like, yeah, this is so cool.
Some people listen to rock and roll. Some people listen to metal. With Alice.
Listen to people play D&D.
None of that rap music. It's just D&D all night.
Yeah.
So, moving on. Moving on. The big news. Well, we thought it was big news at the time. Just to give some backstory. Once upon a time, GRRM, George R.R. Martin,
Used to write a book series.
yeah, he used to write a book series called The Song of Ice and Fire, if you haven't heard it. But he also, in addition to writing this fantastic book series, approached Bethesda about making a game. But at the time, it was like 2010, 2009, I'm not sure, and Bethesda was really, really into working on a specific game of their own IP, called Skyrim, and so that marriage never happened. But a couple weeks ago, there was a link to a game on the Target store, and the link took you to a blank page, but on that blank page was a title and said Bethesda Game of Thrones. Of course, the internet freaked out, and they said, okay, Bethesda's working on a Game of Thrones game, because Bethesda has talked about working on a bunch of new stuff, like 5 different games right now. But it turns out that link was just a hoax. Some Target worker put it up. But if there was a Bethesda Game of Thrones game in the works, would you be down with that?
Yes, dependent on the time setting and things. I don't think they can really do anything in the current canon but they could expand on areas of the series as prehistory. I would really like something exploring the pre-conquest. So like when everything's divided up into loads of tiny different little kingdoms and there's loads of infighting between all the different local houses and things like that. Like I feel like that would give you plenty of room for roleplay that isn't available in the current canon, because obviously there's a set number of houses and things like that, whereas if something's set pre-conquest, then you can just say, oh, well, this house has been lost to history and this house has done that, and you can just really, really play around with it. So
Yeah.
I would love something to be set in, like, pre-Targaryen Westeros.
What about the scale? How big is Skyrim compared to like Westeros as a whole?
In terms of, like, what I'd like it to be, or, like, what I think
Sure,
it would
why
be?
not? It's your game. You can do whatever you want.
I think that Skyrim would be... Because
The
Skyrim's
size
a
of the
big
north,
game.
more or less.
Yeah,
right?
I'd say that Skyrim would be just, like, a little bit smaller than the north. And so if you double the Skyrim map, then you've got Westeros.
What I'm saying is basically what we know of Westeros is all of Westeros, and even outside of Westeros, like when you go east. Whereas Bethesda games have typically focused and centered on a single area.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So I feel like the expectation for a Game of Thrones game is, okay, we're going to go all over Westeros. It's more like a Dragon Age type game where you kind of teleport back and forth between the different kingdoms, the different
Yeah.
holds. Whereas a Bethesda game, open world, I don't know if they would be the right choice because of the fact they're so localized into a specific area. I mean, they could make that game and it'd be hugely popular. I don't know if the expectation, though, for a Game of Thrones game would be to include all 7 kingdoms.
Yeah.
If that would be the expectation.
Or I would like it to just focus on one kingdom, maybe.
Yeah, for
But,
a
like,
Bethesda
obviously I
game,
can't
that
choose
would be
which one
best.
I'd want. Yeah. But I
I
can't
think.
choose which one I'd want.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd quite like the north, but I'd love to see Dawn. And I'd love to... The Crown Lands and stuff like that. I want to see Harrenhal in its full glory. I just can't.
Yeah, I think it would have to be somewhere that isn't a focus of the TV show.
Yeah.
See, for me, I'm not interested at all in a Game of Thrones game because I just feel like the TV show and the books are just such huge presence and huge figure that anything that happens to the side almost feels like it's ancillary to what's happening. I mean, obviously it's going to be a different timeline, but
Yeah.
it almost feels like it means less. I don't know if that makes sense. But if it's a zero-sum game and they only have a certain amount of resources to work on a certain amount of games, I would rather have them work on a new IP or a new Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, I would rather them not take on any IPs of existing properties. Because they've got so much imagination. I did miss like 5 minutes of what you were saying because my mum came into the room and I had to take my headphones off. If you couldn't tell.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's fine. I like talking to myself.
I told her to go away. I told her that I was recording.
You don't have a lock on your door.
No, I'm at my parents' house.
No,
And it's not like I ever bring boys over or anything, so there's no need for a lock.
A heavy object.
Everything I
Put a
own,
boulder
everything
in
I
front of the
own
door.
is packed, Chris. I used to like shove all of my
A box.
I used to shove all of my books in front of my door when I needed to keep people out of my room. And they've all been packed up. Sorry, back to Bethesda. What? Yeah, I'd rather that Bethesda don't take on other properties. I mean, they have had success with taking on pre-owned IPs and stuff like that. With
Yeah,
Fallout
Fallout
and
for
stuff,
one,
yeah.
right?
Like, they've been incredibly successful. But I don't know if that would translate to something that's such a hugely popular series as is. I mean, you look at how Telltale is currently covering every property under the sun, and the response to their Game of Thrones game, which was set in universe. Like, it was
Yeah.
positive, but it was nowhere near the levels of acclaim that they've had for other kind of properties. Like, I don't think that the A Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones universe maybe translates very well into...
Well, especially a game that takes place during the events of Game of Thrones, or the books or the TV show.
Yeah, that flat out wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I don't think.
it's John's story. If you're trying to play your particular protagonist, it's just kind of like a side story. You're a secondary character right off the bat.
Yeah,
so
you're
don't
never
mean
going
as
to
much.
be. Yeah,
You're never going to be king of the Iron.
you're
or
not going to
queen.
be the hero of the story.
Yeah. You're Littlefinger, more or less.
You know what I would like to see though? I would love to see, like, have you? Oh fuck, what's the game? Crusader Kings. There's
that's just
there's a really expansive
Game of Thrones mod,
a Song of
right?
Ice and Fire mod for it. Yeah. I just want that as a proper game by itself. I think that would be so much fun. That's the kind of thing that I feel like the Song of Ice and Fire universe translates well into.
Right, and that's not something that Bethesda does, though.
No, it
in
isn't.
terms of like just political maneuvering and stuff like that.
No, they're not very good at the whole. Don't want to say that they're not very good at the whole writing side of things, but they're kind of not very good.
They're
at the
very
whole
good with
they're good at like background and lore and things like that.
exploration and telling stories through visuals
Yeah.
and
They're not so good at telling stories through characters. Which is where interesting NPCs kicks in. Download it for free from the Nexus. Way.
Speaking of mods, the mod I want to highlight this week is actually not free. It is a creation.
Are you
Club mod.
shilling? Have you sold out our podcast integrity, Chris?
Well, since it's big news, the Creation Club is big news, I just wanted to point out that there are some good mods on there. And I think this one looks pretty cool. It is a modern furniture pack. We don't know who it's by because there's no names listed. It's by Bethesda, I guess. It could be by Bethesda. We don't know. But when I saw it on the store initially, I kind of dismissed it because it's just a picture of a chair. I'm like, I don't want this chair.
It looks like a nice chair. What do you have against the chair? The chair looks great.
Well, the chair's $3, I thought, right? So I'm like, I'm not paying $3 for a chair. 300 credits. But it's actually, if you look into it, it's actually 40 pieces of furniture. And 40 pieces of furniture is worth, to me, $3 if I had it. But I don't.
You don't
I'm
have
poor.
$3.
I spent my free 100 credits on Pip-Boy paints because that's all I could afford. My Pip-Boy's black now.
I like the look of the furniture. It reminds me of IKEA. I really like IKEA.
Yes.
There's something very relaxing about going on a day out to IKEA. This is why I would make a wonderful housewife. I get excited over furniture.
And then after you go shopping at IKEA, you can cut up what you bought and make an outfit out of it, just like on Game of Thrones.
Wait, what?
Well, it was the rugs. IKEA.
Yeah, I get it. I don't think we ever really explained that on the podcast, did we?
No.
So, basically, one of the main materials used in some of the northern outfits is IKEA rugs. I mean, they're nice rugs.
They look very authentic. I mean, it's not like you can just go to IKEA, grab a rug, and put it over your shoulder. They've been sort of weathered and treated
That's
to
what
look
I've
like a
been
cloak.
doing for my Halloween costumes for years. Game of Thrones can't claim a monopoly on that.
But that's the thing. If you want authentic Game of Thrones wear, you just need to go to IKEA. You don't need to go to some fancy shop. But then you have to actually, I don't know,
Cut.
put that rug through some shit.
Like, just throw it in a puddle, it'll be fine. That's how it works, right?
Pretty much. You get the smell, the authentic smell
Just get
down.
your dog to lie on it for a
You do
bit.
that. Yeah. If you want to play someone who's gone to the Citadel,
Just
get
poop
your
on
dog
it.
to shit and pee on that thing, yeah.
Throw up on it a bit.
Get that authentic Citadel smell on that rug.
And you too can help Samuel Tarly defend the wall with his projectile vomiting.
Yes. I like how Game of Thrones, the season ended, and we're still trying to find ways to talk about
It's
it.
literally the only thing we know how to talk about. I don't know if I have any other points of conversation in my life anymore.
Well, let's try. Defenders. We've gotten to season 1, episode 3, I believe.
This is where stuff is starting to get interesting. My God.
We had the first interactions between some of the characters. We had Daredevil and Jessica Jones.
The best characters.
Did you like that whole back and forth between them?
I mean, Jessica Jones is a very abrasive kind of person, so I don't think that she'd be super duper friendly with Matthew.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's like a small puppy.
Yeah.
He's very emotional.
cute.
So it's like oil and water with
Yeah.
them, I think.
Well, they're definitely the characters with the most popular IPs in terms of the Netflix viewing figures
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, Daredevil and Jessica Jones are the two most critically acclaimed of the Marvel TV universe, in comparison to Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
I'm not sure if they really have chemistry together, but I don't know. We'll see as it plays
I
out.
would rather have them two together than slamming Jessica Jones and Iron Fist together.
But see, I think that has potential for comedy because he's like completely a cringeworthy
Oh my
character.
god,
and she's
this
like the person.
episode, oh god.
There was a cringeworthy moment that I think would be funny. Before we get on to Iron Fist and Luke Cage, I think my favorite scene from the episode was Daredevil, like, doing all this ninja shit and jumping up the stairs and hopping over fucking carts. And then he gets to the top of the building, and then Jessica Jones comes out of the elevator. Like, you fucking moron. There's an elevator here that takes me right up to the top. And I think if it was Iron Fist, there'd be a lot more of those moments, only it'd be, like, really, really funny. So I kind of think those two would be a good pairing.
I mean, I guess we're going to see, because we got the first interactions between the full ensemble cast.
Because when Jessica is abrasive with Matthew, I kind of feel sorry for him. But if it was Iron Fist, I wouldn't, because he's such a fucking cringeworthy loser.
Oh my god. I did like his interactions with Luke Cage. I feel like there was a lot of meta dialogue there in regards to the critical reception to Iron Fist.
He did unlock a new power in this episode. The power of white privilege. Which is his true strength, if you think about it.
It's not that he unlocked it, it's just that he hadn't put any points into it.
Ah, okay.
He's specking in.
It's a very dangerous power, though. It's kind of like using the dark side. You know, if you dabble in it too much, he might like start showing up at Trump rallies, and
He's only put like 1 point into it though because he was so bad. Yeah. He was just so bad at it. Right. Okay. So the scene towards the end where he confronts the CEOs / the Hand. Is it the Hand? It kind of reminded me of, I used to watch Gotham. It kind of reminded me of this scene in the second season where Bruce Wayne goes up and confronts a bunch of CEOs at Wayne Enterprises.
Another man who has a power of white privilege.
But the thing is, in that scene, Bruce Wayne is 13.
Okay.
And he did it far more successfully than Danny Rand did it, like, in his mid-20s. It was just so bad. I was just cringing in my seat the entire time. I was like, mate, no. Don't, no.
Yeah.
It was bad.
I mean, he's not really a businessman, so, I mean, in fairness, that is kind of in character, but is that something, do you think, that they're gonna try and give him more depth with, like, trying to use his, like, leverage as a, the wealthiest man in the world, potentially?
I think, sorry, I'm eating fudge at the same time. I'm really professional. I think that we may see some growth from him in that respect. I don't think he's gonna ever be very successful at it.
It's the same dilemma Batman has, more or less. Like, he's out there punching thugs when he could use his billions of dollars to affect real change in the world. But two characters who just haven't unlocked that power of privilege. We'll see. And wealth, obviously.
I mean, Batman spec'd a lot more into it than Iron Fist. Iron Fist has still got to catch up.
Yeah. But we don't want him dabbing too much into that power because, who knows, by episode 9 we might see a Confederate statue outside of the Rand building, so.
Ooh, contemporary topics.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Luke Cage this episode? Is he just there?
Yeah, he's there.
That's kind of his thing, right? He just stands there and takes bullets.
I liked how he was literally used as a bullet sponge.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a tank on the team.
Yeah. I like the fact that the people with guns only know how to use them when Luke's around.
Yeah. They waited to bring out the guns.
Yeah. Well, before that, when Danny was there, they had like point blank shots like 2 or 3 times and missed. I mean, I feel like they're looking at the same LinkedIn profiles like that the Star Wars people are looking at to find their stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Someone needs to hire a better headhunter to kind of like weed out these bad shots.
I mean, they're a multinational corporation. They obviously spend too much of their resources resurrecting dead people
That could be true.
to hire competent gunmen. Oh yeah, that was the thing. We saw how resurrection works with the
Oh, that's
discount
right.
Lazarus pit.
Yes, yes. Elektra's back, which is kind of the thing at the
I
end
liked
is
her outfit.
yeah, Elektra and Daredevil kind of meet up and fight at the end. I'm not sure how he recognized her though. I think he just like used his creepy sniffing powers or something. But he's already has like this kind of romance plot. So that's another thing about the whole Daredevil Jessica Jones lack of chemistry thing is like they're a strange pairing to me. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going for anything romantic
Yeah,
with it.
that's true.
Thank God, because I've had enough forced romance on my screens for...
Her and Luke Cage, do you think there's going to be anything there? I mean, Luke Cage is with Claire, the nurse, right now.
I think there could be some sparks and some tension with it. I don't think that's the direction that they're going with the TV universe.
Yeah.
Because, like in the comics, Jessica Jones gets married and has a kid with him. But it doesn't seem like that's the path that they're going down.
Well, they can't because they're two separate TV shows and they can't cross the streams. Like, if they're married, then Jessica Jones has to be on Luke Cage and Luke Cage has to be on Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Like, the TV shows won't allow it, so...
Yeah, I don't think that they're going down that kind of romantic path with them. There's obviously going to be something there because they've had a relationship in the past. I don't think that's going to be something that they're going to pursue as like a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a canon relationship, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's more than just a fling. It's just these two are supposed to be together, but just TV shows won't allow it. That's life.
Separated by the demands of the producers.
Yeah.
How tragic. My highlight of the episode was Danny's green jumper, his hobo chic.
Oh.
I was like, I get behind that fashion trend. That looked like quite a cozy jumper. That was my highlight.
He's fallen
the
quite a
fight-
bit from his
Yeah.
days as one of the knights of High Garden.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose getting blown up in a septic explosion will do that.
Yeah.
So, you know.
He got blown into another universe, more or less.
Yeah, but he managed to escape without that nasty seven-pointed star on his forehead, so that was something.
He does have that cringy dragon tattoo, so it's kind of a wash.
But yeah, it's definitely picking up a bit now. I find that I'm enjoying it a bit more. I'm not feeling quite as lost as I was feeling.
Because they explain the whole Elektra origin shit and all that. So
Yeah, and that was actually a really well done like set of scenes. I loved the fighting in that scene. I thought that was really well done. Because it wasn't cutting away every single fucking hit.
Yeah, and I think by now we've also kind of gotten a feel for who Sigourney Weaver is.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the head of the hand. She's really, really old. I mean, she kind of, that's her thing, that she likes to like name drop old places. She says, oh, this dinner reminds me of Constantinople.
She needs to listen to Here There Be Giants.
I haven't had this much fun since the time Mozart and I did a duet for the Queen. She's just constantly like name dropping things that are like happened before she could be alive. In case you didn't realize she's immortal.
I always think that the thing with immortality, like even if you are raised to be immortal and stuff like that, like surely the human memory can't store that much. Like you'd begin to forget stuff. Like it'd be like me from Doctor Who.
I think you could remember things that are really, really old. It's just you lose the stuff that's less important. It's not a time thing.
I feel like food would be less important. Like, oh, this food's nice.
Yeah. Like, I don't remember the time my daughter died, but that food in Constantinople, I remember that. But yeah, maybe next time they'll stick to the important memories. Like the time she rode her pet pterodactyl or something.
Secret cave woman. Know it the whole time.
But that's how I think it works. I mean, the way you would extrapolate that is how you think about your own memories, right? You're not going to remember what happened last week, but you're going to remember something happened 20 years ago if the thing 20 years ago is more poignant.
Excuse me, I remember what happened last week. I sat on my arse all week and I watched Critical Role.
But you're not going to remember that moment 2 years from now. You're not going to remember that.
I probably will because I'll still be trying to catch up with Critical Role.
You're not going to remember stuff that isn't important. There's a finite amount of memories that you can keep hold of, but it's kind of like a hard drive. You're not going to erase the good stuff. You're going to erase the 10 hours of Critical Role you listened to 2 weeks ago.
Bitch! But yeah, I'm definitely a lot more engaged in the series than I was starting off.
Good.
Which is
Yeah.
nice. I like watching things that I enjoy.
You have more hours to fill.
Speaking of things that I enjoy, to hate, so the new Death Note Netflix adaptation came
Yes,
out.
adaptation in quotes, because it's very, very loose adaptation.
It was bad. Okay, so Death Note was a important part of my teenage years,
was it?
as it was for many goth children who were into anime and stuff like that. Like, I was 13 during the height of its popularity, I think.
So it left a very big impression on you. You're going to remember Death Note longer than you're going to remember the beer you had last week.
I mean, I rewatched it like last year. It's a genuinely good show.
Yes.
And just to see what they've done to it.
In general, I think it all starts with the characters. I mean, the adaptation completely changed the main character, Light.
It completely changed the setting.
But I don't think the setting, obviously, it's an American show. It has to have an American cast. I still think the lead could have been Asian American.
Yeah.
But the setting to me doesn't really matter as much because I think it could play anywhere. I don't know if it's a Japanese tale so much as it is just a like psychological thriller. And to me, the main difference is the characters. I mean, the adaptation completely switched and changed Light from a psychopath who is all about himself.
A genius psychopath.
Yeah, a genius psychopath, a high-functioning psychopath who wants to become a god.
And is corrupted by the power
Yeah.
of this idea that only he knows what's right for the world.
And it's all about ego and it's all about self. And they changed him to a character who is more idealistic and like he's basically like an angsty teenager. He's idealistic. He's motivated by the death of his mother. And so he ultimately wants to do what's right, but just gets this like unfortunate power that kind of like twists what that means to him. And ultimately it changes the story because you change the main character. And I don't know if it did it in a good way or an enjoyable way.
I think part of like the big joy of watching the original one was watching L and Light kind of outmaneuver each other.
Right.
That was the real joy of the writing of the anime.
And there's tension in those scenes. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a slow burn. It's all psychological. I mean, in this movie, we got a chase scene. we got them running after each other. It's like there's moments where it felt like an action flick.
Yeah, and the pacing was just so bizarre. I think that was the weirdest thing about it for me. Like, I understand that when you're condensing what is a 37 episode anime into an hour and a half feature film.
Right.
There's going to be some sacrifices that you have to make in the story. You have to cut a lot of scenes and you have to condense it down. But the fact that they go from having a discussion in the library to suddenly, right, we've killed 400 people.
Yeah.
And they've condensed the timeline down to, a few weeks? A few months? It's never really made clear.
Yeah, because you have movies that are psychological horror movies or that kind of add that particular tension that is caused by two people risking their lives or more or less. With this movie, I mean, it's all over the place. Like, for example, in the anime, the main source of tension is between L's search for Kira's identity, right?
Yeah.
And Light trying to figure out L's name. And it's a race between them, right? It's a game, it's a match, it's a chess match to see who figures out the identity first, right?
Yeah.
And there's tension because they're both risking their own lives. But in this movie, we had scenes where Light was risking nothing save his idealism. Because it was like Watari's life that was on the line as he was racing to find L's identity. And that idealism matters to nobody save Light because we already know he's a killer.
Yeah.
So he was more competing against himself, right? There wasn't really much tension because he wasn't competing against L there. So it was just strange. What did you think of some of the other characters? We can start with Mia.
She kind of took on the more engaging aspects of Light's personality, I feel.
Yeah, she was more of a sociopath.
Yeah. She was basically more like Light than Light was.
Without the, over-the-top intelligence, right?
Yeah. And, that was an interesting change, but at the same time, it came at the expense of the protagonist slash antagonist's characterization. So it just. I don't think you can sacrifice a main character's development for the purposes of raising up a secondary character. I don't think that's good writing.
Yeah, that whole interaction between them is just was kind of sad. There was a lot of this whole, like, I don't know, I don't want to call it John Hughes, but there was like a weird like teenage vibe to the whole movie. The anime had a lot of like classical music. This one had a lot of 80s music.
It felt like watching a John Green movie, but with murder in it.
Yeah, the Mia character felt like something that someone who was like rejected by a girl that he had a crush on would write.
Yeah.
Girls are bad. They just want to use you
and steal your notebook.
Take your powers. And
it's so rude.
All I wanted to do was love her in the end. They make Light into this really like overly melodramatic, idealistic character.
Yeah.
And then Mia's just there to kind of further that image of him by taking advantage of his ideals and taking advantage of his love. And it's like,
yeah. Light seems kind of like the kind of person who would go on Yahoo Answers and asks, my demon likes my girlfriend more than he likes me. What do I do? That's the kind of thing I could picture Light doing. And when you can picture a protagonist of your film going on Yahoo Answers, that's it. You've done something wrong.
And the worst part of it is all intentional. I don't think it's like the director or writer kind of misread the original Death Note. This is like an obvious change. Like they wanted to write their own story.
Yeah, they thought this was going to be a successful adaptation of the source material. And there are aspects of the film that do show, yeah, we liked the original. Like, I think the most obvious case of that is the writing and performance of Ryuk. Like,
yeah.
That was the best thing about the film. Like, Willem Dafoe is...
Yeah, Willem Dafoe's voice is perfect.
He did the mocap for it as well.
I don't like the CGI, though. I thought it looked like an 80s monster puppet.
Yeah. But it was quite funny, because once you get to the end of the film and the credits roll, you see shots of Willem Dafoe in the scenes with dots all over his face, is acting and performing amazingly. And it's just like, I feel like the way that they wrote Ryuk portrayed, like, yeah, we did enjoy the source material and we want to do well by it, but everything else was just like, they're not competent enough. Or they're not quite clear about what they're doing, because I do think that they enjoyed the original. And I thought that they did think that they were doing something innovative. Like, there is one shot towards the end of the film where I was like, yeah, I could see this being lifted out of the anime, or, like, even though it was an original scene and an original shot, the composition of it, I was like, yeah, that looks like something that would not be out of place in the anime, but then it's surrounded by mountains and mountains of misfires.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you tried?
The backbone of the movie is completely different. I mean, just the tone. It's like if they turned like Mortal Kombat into a wrestling game.
Yeah.
There's still some elements that are similar, but the soul of it is completely different. And then what ends up happening is the end product is completely different. When you change the main character that much, it's going to change the source of tension. And the source of tension was always supposed to be Light and L. And when you're trying to be a kid who's just misunderstood and saves people, it's completely different. It's just a completely different story.
I feel like the best comparison that you can draw is the Death Note movie is to the Death Note anime as the second Silent Hill film is to Silent Hill 3.
I do not get that reference.
Oh god, haven't you watched the second Silent Hill film?
I have not.
Oh my god, it's atrocious. It is so bad. It was like so hilariously awful.
I am trying to lower my salt intake, Alice. I am not like you. I do not swim in salt. It does not sustain me. There is enough in the world to be salty about.
Basically, it's that kind of level of adaptation, like a complete misinterpretation of the material.
I would have liked to see something more along the lines of a Fight Club kind of thing, where it's an older person, because Death Note, it strikes me as something that doesn't need to involve children, doesn't need to involve teenagers.
Yeah.
That's just something that a lot of anime does because that's the target audience. The target audience is all teenagers, so like the main characters are usually teenagers. For a Western adaptation, I feel like it could have been a guy like a Patrick Bateman type, like a psychopath who is enormously successful but feels like he's not really changing the world. But obviously that's not his main goal. His main goal is to become like a god or whatever. And like just having adults, I feel like the second you introduce teenagers, this particular writer or director, they got an idea in their head that this is how teenagers act. Teenagers are emotional, they're angsty, they're idealistic. And I think that kind of threw him off. Like, if he was told, like, you can do this with adults, it's okay, he would have been more faithful to the source adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Because Fight Club had that kind of thing where it was, like, raging against society, and it involved an imaginary person, right? And it had that dark undertone, right? So
I did always find it weird that Fight Club was, like, so rage against the system. Yeah, how did it manage to cut all that product placement? That was something that really confused me. Like the Starbucks says IKEA. How were the companies?
I guess it's ironic humor
in being portrayed as yeah, but how were the companies happy to have their products? Well,
advertising it doesn't matter how you're portrayed. It's more about getting that familiarity in your head. So like when you go down an aisle at the supermarket, you're like, I know this company. I've heard of them before. I'm more likely to buy this product than the one I've never heard of. Could be anything.
I suppose. But yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Guys, let's just not. Please. Go watch the original anime, it's great.
Well, the good thing is that it means less adaptations in general, I hope.
I hope. The good thing is, I went on my Netflix today to go watch Defenders, and the original anime is, like, on top trending right now.
Ah, another good thing.
The film isn't. I don't know where the film is. But the actual anime is, like, if it's introduced more people to the anime, then at the end of the day, I feel like it's a good thing.
True enough.
And then they can see, oh yeah, this is actually really
Maybe
good.
that was his intent. I'm going to just create this terrible, terrible adaptation. It's going to go trending on social media, how bad it is, and then people are going to look up the source material.
Maybe it was, like, a sacrifice of love.
Yes.
I will sacrifice my honor and my credibility as a filmmaker.
That's what he wrote in the Death Note.
My career.
My honor, my respect, my credibility.
My career. Died at the end of August, resurrecting the Death Note anime on Netflix's top trending list. But yeah, are we gonna do Game of Thrones characters for this?
Sure, go ahead, why not?
On a scale of Game of Thrones characters, what do you think this is? I think it's D&D.
They're not Game of Thrones characters.
Right, okay. On a scale of Game of Thrones characters, I think that it's that acting troupe in Bravos.
Ah, okay.
Because they misinterpreted everything.
They did. They did indeed. Who is an emo, whiny character? Joffrey? Would it be Joffrey?
Jon. Jon Snow. Bran. Bran's pretty emo.
Yeah. But Bran isn't a killer, though. I guess I could give it a Bran/Joffrey.
Yeah, a Broffrey.
Yeah,
Ramsay!
Oh, there you go.
Guess it absolutely just flayed and cut the cock off.
No, but he's not idealistic, though. Ramsay's not idealistic.
No.
Neither is Joffrey.
No.
Arya?
Robin!
Ah, I guess we could give it a Robin then.
Yeah.
Why not? Robin with a Death Note would probably just be X through the moon door, Y through the moon door.
Through the moon door, through the moon door. Just like a queue of people climbing up the Eyrie to drop through the moon door. And again I ask, where is Robin? He's as missing as Ghost.
It's alright. All the meaningless characters will just turn up one episode and get burned alive or something. Something typically violent.
Be sad. Ghost, no.
Is there anything else you want to add? Is that it for this episode?
I am not going to be around.
No, you're not.
For the next
so we
week.
might not have an episode next week. We'll see.
Unless you can replace me, because obviously I'm irreplaceable. Yeah, we've done a good streak though. We've had a good run the past. We've done like a month.
Yes,
right.
We've gotten like I think more episodes out this year than all of 2 years combined. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure on your maths on that.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, so if we're not here next week, trust that I am still being salty with my lack of internet connection.
Yes. Blame somebody else. That's always good.
I'll blame the internet company for not coming around to install my internet for fucking 10 days. How am I going to cope for 10 days without internet?
I don't know.
What am I going to do?
I couldn't survive if I were you.
I'm gonna have to like fucking clean the house and shit.
Probably.
Who wants to do
Nobody.
that?
Alright, so that's it for this episode of Lore Friendly.
We'll see you in 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on who we are and if Chris finds a replacement.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Big news that happened last week.
We haven't done the intro yet.
We've done the intro.
No,
I've
we
done it
haven't.
separately.
Oh, yeah, you have to. Well,
No song this week.
we could make up a song to the Discord ringtone.
No. It's too much work. It's easier if I just have an intro that is done like...
Gashi and Alice Bell.
It's easier if we just have one intro that has been recorded a long time ago, and I could just roll it out
In a
every
galaxy
time.
far away.
I could just roll it out every time with the scrolling text. Sorry. So, moving on.